in order to be able to get it to record. So yeah, so Zoom is not working. Skype, your guys' Skype has vanished. It wouldn't let me record. So it doesn't like us. What can I say?
We're trying to be stopped right now, and you're not allowing it. That's very good. You're doing good.
I know. I'm like, I will make this happen. No. Okay. Awesome. So we've got it recording. So this is Carrying Stones and Digging Holes class, weekly online class that I'm doing, and we're having Ralph Ring and Marcia Brown on to talk about manifesting for the next hour. And we had trouble. We couldn't get them up on Zoom. And then, of course, the Skype link is gone. And so we kind of had to pull it together. So it's going to be an audio. So yeah. So anyway, go ahead. You guys start out. I like the title, which was Can Science Manifesting?
Yeah, it just means what it says, being conscious of manifesting. Everybody manifests in one way or another. They just don't realize that we're kind of asleep at the switch when it comes to doing things. But if we're not conscious of what we do, if we don't focus on what we do and intend on what we do instead of wanting what we do, we're not going to get anywhere. We have to really be conscious of manifesting, because it's a real thing. It's not something that's just imagined that doesn't exist, because Marcia and I do this all the time. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Marcia for a second.
And first of all, Bridget, thank you for having us here on this show today. We're truly thankful and feeling very blessed that you have given us this opportunity. Ralph and I do manifesting like on a regular basis without thinking too much about it. One of the things that I kind of wanted to read to you that we wrote up is manifestation is something that is put into your physical reality through feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. This means that whatever you focus on is what you are bringing into your field of consciousness. So when you're focusing, make sure you're focusing on positive thoughts and anything that you want to bring into your life, because you're manifesting thoughts and feelings and reactions to people. You're manifesting all of these things along with physical forms. What we're really thinking about is like physical forms, the physical things like at one point.
Everybody can do that, and they do it all the time. Parking places. I'm sorry, because most everybody, I hope by now, knows how to find a parking place without thinking about it. If they really focus on it, they can do it. We all do it. But now is the time for us to start using manifestation in our life, because the old ways we used to do things are not going to be working much anymore. You can't just write a letter or pay somebody to get what you want anymore, because it's going to be too complicated with running through the gamut of people in the way and stuff. It's easier if you do it yourself, and that means create your intention, be honest with yourself, and be very, very still when you do this. And when you
and get clear on what...
Yeah, you have to be absolutely clear on your intention. In other words, if you're intending to have, don't want and don't hope and don't wish. Intend on having the best that life has to offer to you at this time. That's the best that life has to offer to you at this time. That means everything, because you can't get more than you can hold, and life's trying to give us all. But anyway, if you focus on that, and then have in the back of your mind some of the ideas that you have to go along with that, what it happens to mean, getting better relationships, getting better contacts with people, places, and things, you can just leave that in a nebulous state in your mind. Don't focus it. Just focus on getting the best that the intention has to give you at this time. And then once you're clear on that, then you have to trust the source. That's life itself. You have to trust life, or the spirit of life, or the love of life. That if you're honest with yourself for a moment, it is never really ever let us down. We think it has, and we yell at it and scream at it, but when push comes to shove, when we analyze it, we have made the mistake. Life has never made a mistake. If you look at it that way, then here, Marcia.
Well, I'm going to bring in God in this, or our source, and the God, and when we've gone back to, or I've gone back to my beginning in the Bible and that kind of thing, where it says that we were created, and whatever God has created is ours. We have access to it. So there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing in this world, in this universe, that we cannot have access to if our motive is pure, if we have trust that it has already been given to us, and we have to have our intentions correct. At one point in my life, I said to Ralph, I need a suitcase. I need a suitcase, but I probably didn't say a suitcase. I need a suitcase. The next day I had 5 suitcases. I only needed 1 suitcase. So this is what I'm saying. Be clear in your intention.
Well, everybody does this all the time, like the parking place I mentioned, or the restaurant, or whatever it happens to be. But being conscious of it now, that's the next step. That takes us beyond metaphysics to being purely mystical. That means manifesting from the source, with the source, as the source all the time. Not relying on anything or anybody else, but the source. Go ahead, honey.
And then when we decide what we want, or we'll go back to the parking place. We need a parking place, and let it go. We don't say I need a parking place directly in front of the door.
And you don't need it.
We don't say need. We intend on a parking place. So we don't outline exactly what we want.
No planning.
We put an intention out, and then let it happen. Let it come to us. And if, in fact, it looks like there's not a parking place in front of the shop, we could have either had a doubt, or we are not seeing. We need to be patient, and it will appear. It happens over and over like that. So we need to be open and receptive, and know that because we have intended whatever it is that we've intended, that it is in process. It will come about.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
I was listening to a video the other day from Esther Hicks, who channels the Abraham. And one of the things that the Abraham said was, you have to do this. You have to know without evidence. You're not going to get the evidence that's going to tell you, like, okay, now you're going to get this, right? Or you have these things going on in your life, so now you're going to have this. That you have to just know without the evidence being present.
That's that's very good. It's like we don't have to plan on how we're going to get it, or no.
No, but the evidence of we're breathing. We're the evidence that life works. And if you have faith in life, or you have some patience in life, the life source itself is all very, very simple and very, very true in its nature. I mean, it's all true. And we just try to get in the way sometimes by saying, well, I want a green one, not a blue one or something. And then we mess the whole manifestation up. It doesn't work that way because we're doing it consciously by our thoughts, and our intention isn't working.
Well, if we're patient and we do nothing, we know that the process is working. And that's all. You just have to be still and let it happen.
Yeah.
And that's what.
And stay out of the way. Don't think about it.
That's what happens so many times. We want to do something because, we have to dig the ditches, but, we've already dug the ditches, so to speak, with the intention. And that's a good thing. It's hard to say, okay, this is what I did at one point. We were living in paradise, and we were collecting food every week. We would get food, and we would get so much food that we were passing it around to people, other people that needed it. And so I said to Ralph, if we could have another refrigerator, we could save a lot of these things until we get them passed out.
And that's enough. You don't have to do any further than that. If you let it go, the intention's been made right there. You don't have to think about it, and you don't have to put words on it, because your subconscious or the invisible already knows what you're saying, what you're doing, and the intention has been forward.
But I had to explain it to you, Ralph,
yes,
because he didn't. He said there's no place for another refrigerator, and I said, well, in the garage in your man cave, we could put it there. And he says, oh no. It was about 2 weeks after that, and we were helping a lady that had children, that was by herself with her children. We were helping her move some things out of her house into to a into a thrift store. Into a thrift store. So we got to the thrift store, and Ralph and the other fellows and the lady went in to help them move the things in. And I went into the front of the thrift store, and here was a whole group of people standing around the cash register, and they were saying, well, no, we don't take refrigerators or any kind of electrical appliances. You'll have to take it to the dump. And this young man, very tall and young, probably in his 30s, said, oh my goodness, I just unplugged it this morning. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to take it to the dump. And I said, what do you have, a refrigerator? And he said, do you want it? And I said, well, I have to wait and talk to my husband. Well, what happened then was the fellow actually brought the refrigerator and loaded it
in his truck and brought it over and set it up and balanced it and made sure it worked and that we were happy, and then gave you a card. If for any reason you don't want it, or let him know and he'll come and take it back.
And these are kinds of the intentions that happen, and we just, like I said before, I said, well, it would be nice to have, and so it comes. These things manifest is so easy for us, but I think we're all, like Ralph said earlier, we all do this, but we're not focused, or we're not seeing that, oh yeah, I did say I'd like to have something a couple of weeks ago, or even a month ago. It doesn't matter, because Source knows what you really need and when you need
more
it.
than you do. Source knows your needs more than you do. So trust the Source, and that's life itself. Trust that you're going to get the next breath, and it always comes. It's always there. But to expedite things happening, if you pay it forward, in other words, we were on our way helping somebody else. If you're always giving out to find compassion or find a need that you could fill for somebody, it expedites your intention. It's just the way it works. Appreciation is the way things appreciate and how they happen here.
It's kind of fun to sit back and watch the things happen, and then when you are gifted or something comes into your experience, and you think, did I ask for that, or how did this happen? And usually you can revert back and say, yeah, I did say I could use that, or it would be helpful to have that.
You have to be completely honest with yourself, or nothing will work. If you think you did it and you really didn't, it won't work. It has to be real.
That's true in all areas, but
Yeah.
in this,
For a real
definitely.
manifestation
Yeah.
to work, everything you do has to be real. You have to know what you're doing. And then, what?
And then what?
Well,
I think it's the most important thing in manifesting is actually saying, intending, and then letting it go, and not trying to make any. If you try to make it happen, you're pushing it away. I know in some like metaphysical meetings and stuff, you do outlines. I want this, and I want it
no.
a certain color and a certain thing. But I feel, well, we did this, Ralph and I did this with the car that we have now. We saw a car, we actually have a Prius, a Toyota Prius, and we saw a car in a parking lot in Paradise, and
Station wagon.
we waited for the lady to come out, or the person that owned it to come out, and we talked to her. It was a lady, and she told us I think it was a 2014,
Mm-hmm.
and
Prius V.
we liked the
wagon.
color, we liked everything about it, and so we said that's what we want. Well, we were going to purchase a car when we sold our house. When we had a house in Prescott, Arizona, and when we sold our house, we were going to buy a car. Well, Ralph got on the phone and talked to somebody at a car dealership, and 2 days later, a car, the same color that we wanted, only it was a year newer.
No, a year earlier. Or
Anyway,
whatever.
it was a year later. And so we went and looked at it, and we said, oh my goodness, it was a car that was being turned in. One lady had owned it, and she had leased it. So we decided, yes, we want it, but our house hadn't, the final, it was going to be like in a month, we would have the money, the closure on it. So we went ahead and financed it, and we got it, but then we were able to pay it off as we had planned on doing. It's like setting the intention, but be willing to do whatever it takes to get it. That's again part of the
and
process.
Don't question it. It might tell you to do something you don't agree with, but don't question it. Just go along with it carefully. Go along with it and see the results, because it might be something far greater than you could have thought of.
Yeah, so there's so many things that we know that we manifest, and so we are right now in our stage of life very careful to say we need anything.
We don't need it. We don't want any. We're just perfectly. We have adjusted to the present state of affairs on all levels, and it's just perfectly comfortable. We have everything in place. We don't have a roster. We don't have a regimented time to do anything. We don't have breakfast, lunch, and dinner anymore. We just have meals when we feel hungry. We watch movies when we feel like it. We read when we do. We just do everything that's comfortable, and very little that's uncomfortable. And it just feels so good all the time.
Well, the process that we're living in is one of God.
Wait, I give a good example that just happened.
Oh, okay.
We belong to Hewlett Packard. We've been with them 20 years, and they've got a program that you subscribe to or be with them, that they will watch your computer. If there's any hackers or anything, they'll let you know. About a month ago, they called us and said, we got a red flag on your account. somebody's trying to cash a $25,000 check on they got in past a lot of the things that were holding them out. But Hewlett Packard monitors this, and they have their own security system, and they blocked it. And the results were we were safe. They didn't get check or anything. And they said that people all over the world now are setting up hacking stations. The one we had from at that time was in the Netherlands and Russia, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. There were 2 tracking stations trying to get into our account. Well, anyway, Hewlett Packard came to the rescue. They rescued us, got us out of it, and we're good for them for life. So we didn't have to worry about losing any money. Well, a call came in today. It's early today, and said there's people in, where was it? Nairobi? Where?
You took the call. I don't know.
Nairobi. The hackers trying to get into your account, and they trying to get a check for $17,500 cashed, or something to that effect. Or I don't know if it was a check or the transition trying, but Hewlett Packard caught it right away and called us and stopped it. And so the upshot of it was that we have complete faith in what we intended, because we had to pay up front a fee for the service. But it's always there. We always trust it, and they've saved us thousands of dollars. That's just another example of intention. Just intend on doing it. We did it. It was too much, we thought at the time, but we did it anyway, and it's just saved us because it did.
Yeah, it's a different way of looking at
Yeah.
manifestation, but it's definitely, it's come to pass. Yeah, for sure.
It's just, and once you start realizing, see, you have eyes in your body to see the 3-dimensional things, but the only way you can see how life works is your real eyes, and that's referred to as the pineal gland. And in India, they use their real eyes to in all their ceremonies and rituals, because they're more closer to the natural flow of things, and not the way humans conduct things. So here, Marcia.
He's getting off a little bit on that, but it's going into the esoteric a little bit. But anyway, all of your audience, Bridget, I know they all understand all of this anyway, so it's good.
There's nothing new. We all know these things. It just, we bring them to the surface, or we try to, so people look at them and they say, well, let me try that. And then when they trying doesn't work, then they let it go. Don't try anymore. That's what the hardest thing in life to do now is to stop trying to live it. Let life live you. Let life come through you and show you the way, by not thinking, by not trying to get in the way, by your thoughts are better than the creative thoughts of the universe. And just be quiet and still and do nothing and wait for your manifestation to occur. And it will, when sometimes at the least moment, when you least expect it, it'll show up. But it always works in one way or another. And even if it doesn't work in your favor, or you don't think it worked in your favor, and you don't look at it in retrospect for a few years or a month or so, you'll find out that what did come to you was far better, or far wiser, or far more beneficial than you could have ever imagined. That's the way life works. It's working for you, not ever against you.
Yeah, I always have to remind myself, I call it the weeble wobble, and I have to stay out of my weeble wobble, because if I'm weebling and wobbling, then I know that I'm haphazardly creating a mess, And I have to be like, okay, if I'm going to weeble wobble, I just have to let go of all that. I just can't participate in it. Maybe I should do it. No, I back out. No, I don't want to do it. No, maybe I
No.
should do
Yeah.
it. So that's what I call the weeble wobble, where you're like not really sure about it. But
Do you have any Dutch blood in you? Do you have any Dutch blood in you? That's when we went to Amsterdam.
Russian.
That's all they want to hear is yes or no, do or don't. They don't want to mess around. Well, I can't right now, because they don't want to hear that. They just say yes or no, or good or bad, or right or wrong. They don't mess around with with details and excuses.
Weeble wobble.
Weeble wobble. No.
So whenever
That's a good one.
Yeah, when I start weebling and wobbling, and it's really funny is plants taught me that, they don't like me to come and collect them if I can't get my head straight for the day, and I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get them and I'm going to collect them. Well, they don't like me when I show up that way. So they talk to me about, staying out of the weeble wobble. And, when you're in yourself and you're in the present moment and you're ready to go, come back. We'll be here.
But I think that's
perfect.
We know
That's
what you need.
perfect. That's you doing it. That's perfect.
And
Because you're consciously aware that you're doing it. That's the difference. See, most people are doing these things and they don't realize it, and they wonder what goes this way or what goes that way. Well, the only reason is because they created it that way, and they don't realize it. Once you start realizing and consciously and focusing consciously on what you're doing, and being very careful on your wording, on your feelings, on your thoughts, then your life starts to change in that direction. Because when we say, "Oh, the glass is half empty," I see that all the time, then we get used to that habit, and I've heard people say that over and over. But the minute you show them there's the other side of the glass, and they use it a few times, they find, well, hell, everything's going fine. It's just the way we look at things, because we're the creators of everything that happens to us. We are the ones that create everything. We're the masters of our own destiny.
Whoa,
Yeah.
and that's a big one, but it's one that we need to realize. Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
I did a YouTube video today about, like these processes, and we have these events that happen to us, and we might not ever get away from events happening to us, but it's how we react to the event, and then what we allow to transpire after the event, and then, our responsibility. And, the fourth stage is like realizing that I created the whole thing. But I know I see a lot of people who've been injured. And the difference between people healing rapidly and people not healing at all is going back into a looping cycle, which they, may have this brokenness about them that started somewhere in their past. And every, 10 years, every 20 years, this broken, record comes back. And then it breaks them kind of in the same place. Like, the first time it comes around, maybe you broke your leg when you were a kid. Second time it comes around, maybe you have a hip joint problem, third time that it comes around. And it's all based on, allowance that, you're creating and manifesting these situations, these events to you. But, in the same case, a person could get their leg broken, kind of read the writing on the wall, and then clean it up, clear it up, and then it not happen to them again. And they actually thrive from it, where you have some people where they'll break their leg and it's part of their never-ending story, and then they allow more accumulative energies to come in until they're completely disabled.
That's a different way of looking at it, but it sure is true, isn't it? It's
Yeah. And it is kind of a difficult concept, to grasp. I'm just, I'm lucky because these plants, that I collect for plant medicine the last few years have been really helping me, because they have this intention. Okay, they're going to come up, right? There's only a few things that can happen. They either, go to drought too early and they dry up and they release some seed and they'll come back, part of them will come back again next year. Or, they'll thrive and then they'll have, a longer season. Or like they're a tree, they're going to live a long time, but even a tree has a long-term intention of a process that it does. And it holds to the basics of what it does. Nature is a lot smarter than humans sometimes. And because we can't focus in on that one intention. Oh. Uh-oh. Whoop. Uh-oh. All right, hold on. We lost somebody. We lost him. Ooh, let's see if we can get him back on. Are you back on?
Ring. I can't get to the phone right now. If you'd call me back at this number, I'd be glad to get to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me see if I can ring him back on. All right, let me see. It's kind of weird that we're having usually it's like with Ralph and Marcia on my radio show, we have like technical difficulties and, crazy activities that happen. And we just have to keep at it until, we can get them back on.
This is Ralph Ring. I can't get to the phone right now. If you'd call me back at this number.
All right. Let's just hold on and see if they will actually ring back in, and then I can add them back on. But I'll just kind of, continue on here. So one of the things, was something that, took me a long time to actually manifest was in 2000, well, before 2004, like 2002, I really wanted to go to school, long-term school, wanted to get a bachelor's or a master's degree in herbal medicine. And so finally I found a school in 2004. I was supposed to relocate to New Mexico. Oop, hold on one second. Are you there? Oh, crud. Hold on one second. They tried to call in. Oops. And I messed it up. But anyway, so I was supposed to go to the school in 2004. I got everything together. And then what happened was that they canceled the school starting for a couple of years because they were trying to get federally accredited. So I took a whole bunch of other, hey, are you there? Oh.
Hear me?
Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
God, my phone went completely dead. I don't know what happened. It just went dead, and I had a hard time calling you back.
Yeah, no worries. I just expect it, You gotta, it's just how it is. You just gotta keep going and not stop.
Well, God bless you for that. We're back on. Okay.
All right. Well, do you guys, we have about 20 minutes left. Do you have any big points that you want to hit on, like the ending processes or, what processes in manifestation that maybe took you the longest to learn? And, maybe some ideas of how to kind of embed that in ourselves to make it a little bit stronger?
Well, the thing I'd like to leave with the audience is because...
Why don't you wait until...
What? What? What do you want?
Wait until she starts recording it.
Oh, you're not recording it?
We're still recording. You guys fell off and we kept on going, so... I kept on going over here. So you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
What was I going to say? I forgot. Well, the best thing that people can do is heed our words, because we've been actively manifesting for a long, long time. We have no worries. We never allow worry to come into the picture at all. And we don't have any more doubts. We throw doubt to the wind. because we know we never try to find our will to be done, but the will of the universe, or the will of God, or the will of your superconscious spirit, whatever it happens to be. We don't try to get in the driver's seat anymore. We stay out of the way. That means stop thinking too much. Don't try to think your way through anything, because if you feel your way, that means use your intuition. Get into your soul, get into your heart. And when you meet a situation, a people, place, or thing, use your feelings to guide you. Don't try to outthink, like, well, they're wearing the wrong kind of shoes, so I better not communicate with them. I mean, no, you don't go there. That's you're just you're shooting yourself in the foot. Just feel your way and look in their eyes, or feel their energy field, and you will know. You don't have to say a word. You'll just know whether that's something you need to do at this time or pass. And it will guide you. It just keeps guiding you, but you have to trust it, because you want to doubt it. You want to come in with your thought, well, wait, I could have done better than that. Well, maybe you can next time, but you didn't this time, so don't worry about it. I mean, we spend too much time thinking and not enough time in silence. But the more we're in silence, we can follow our feelings, our intuition, where we can feel our way. And every time you make a move with your feelings, it's usually, it always turns out as expected, better than you thought. But when you try to think your way, you'll find into a snag. Well, you can't do this because of this and that and the other. And that's baloney. Throw that stuff away. That's old school. Because now you're becoming who you've always been, an unlimited, immortal being. That's who we truly are. We're not this skin and bone thing we call a body. It is just our own imagination, believe it or not. I know it's a hard one, but it's true. We create through our minds what we need to do, what we would like to do, and then we find ourselves doing it. And when you're doing what you love to do, never do anything you don't like. That's one of the things that'll help in manifestation. If you don't feel good about something, don't do it. It's not your time. It might be a good thing for somebody else at that moment, but it's somebody else's moment, not yours. So don't take it. Just pass. Just pass on.
So always listen to your feelings.
Always listen to your feelings.
And remember, when you focus on something, when you focus like, I would like to have something, then let it go. Be still and let it, and just know it's coming to you. It's coming about if it's meant for you. Because we do one thing more. We turn it over to the source, but knowing that all the time, everything that we desire is not necessarily what we need to experience at this time.
Well said.
So we have to let it be and be still. Just set it into motion, and if it doesn't come around, then it wasn't.
Don't worry about it.
It wasn't right
else
for us at this point.
Go find another delight for the moment, and don't worry about it. Never worry about what you can't have or what you think you don't have. Just enjoy what you have for the moment. And that, just put all your heart into it, and you'll find everything will keep enriching itself. It just happens. And it's like a magic. It's like the genie in the bottle. I mean, it just happens. And Marcia and I have been doing this for quite a few years, but we are just learning, like the rest of us. We're waking up to a deeper state of consciousness. We're just learning how to do it more frequently, more abundantly, and more so for others as well as ourselves. and I mean, it's just, it's a new, exciting game. It's mysticism is above metaphysics. There's no more guidelines. Metaphysics has guidelines, and mysticism doesn't. You have to rely on the source 100%, not 99.99, but 100%. And that takes away all doubt and all fears. When you're manifesting, just throw the intention out, no doubt, no fear, and let it go. And when it comes around, it may not be what you thought it was, because you didn't have your tuning forks sharp enough. But when it comes back around and you look at it, it'll be better than you ever expected.
And I think one thing that is very, very important, whatever you bring into your life, into your beingness, remember to appreciate it. Appreciate or bless it and be thankful that it is part of your life. That is so important to bring the next thing around. Appreciation, we've decided to use that almost more now than gratitude, because appreciation, when you think about your home appreciates, it's getting
infinite. It keeps going.
It keeps getting growing. More and more. And so we appreciate, because we're so thankful that these things are coming into our beingness as we need them. And I feel that's what we really have, is when we need something,
they're so natural. It's so natural.
Brings it to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been wanting to go back in the pool. We have a pool here. We live in a community that has a community pool, and I woke up in the morning and I said, the pool's open. I didn't know how that came to me, but I just knew. So I said, well, let's go. So
it's been closed.
We wanted to argue. We wanted to say, oh, we can't because we got to do this and that, just like we all do. And we said, let's go. The pool is open for us now. And we listened. We threw our suits on, put a towel around our neck. We went to the pool. There was a few people in there, but as soon as they saw us coming, for some reason they got out of the pool. They wanted to sit in the sun and left us the whole pool to ourselves. We had about an hour or more in the pool just having fun. And then when we decided to leave, we noticed everybody else was gone, and the last person said, just lock up when you leave. We left the whole place to ourselves. So it happens that way.
And that's a form of manifesting.
Yeah.
That's a form.
Because we've been waiting for the pool for months.
Well, the pool was all of the swimming pools have been closed down because of the coronavirus, and so it just opened up, and Ralph was noticed.
As soon as I opened my eyes, it said the pool's open. What? It was almost like a voice. I mean, it was so loud. Like I just knew the pool was open. And when you're manifesting, you're in tune with it. Yes.
Yeah, no. And then, the other thing too is, like, people should know is that you guys were in the Paradise Fire and barely made it out. You made it out in your pajamas with your dog in your car, and went through like a huge wall of flames. And so, right now you're in a situation that you're living in a more ideal place, right? In a different state. Yeah. It took a while to get there. You have gotten pretty much everything back and more. And you
more
happier than you ever have been. And so you went through this really horrific, situation. And there are a lot of people who are not healing from the loss of everything, like they are still kind of stuck in that slump and not being able to move forward or listen to that intuition because they can't get over the fact that of what they lost and the blame. And they just
Paradise was my Paradise was my hometown. I was raised there. I was raised in the woods there and spent most of my life coming back and forth to Paradise. And when Marcia and I finally landed there and decided this is going to be our forever home, we had a forever home with a running creek. Well, you've been there. It's a nice little place, and we thought this is it, and we don't need anything. The same feeling we have right now. But along came the source and said, no, you need a little better situation. And well, what's better than this? Well, we didn't want to argue. We just went along. Okay, here comes the fire. Marcia got on the phone. She was crying and praying at the same time. And I saw this wall of flame coming up, starting to lick on front of the car. And I said, well, that's a wall of flame. And there's a car right in front of me. And if I go there, I'm going to be stuck in the middle of the flames. And something said, step on it. And I said, are you crazy? I tried to argue with myself. But I heard that feeling, the same feeling about the pool. Step on it. And I stepped on it full bore. And I got through the wall of fire. It was about two feet thick, just all fire. It didn't even scorch the car, but I got through the fire into the smoke in just a few seconds because I stepped on it. Because the car that was in front of me just made a lunge forward and got enough space ahead of me so I could do it. But then we got, well, where are we going now? We just count on the universe to live our life, and suddenly we arrived in Green Valley, which is the most beautiful place I've ever been, and I'm still calling it heaven compared. I came out of paradise and landed in heaven, because here things are manifesting without us even trying. We don't have to do a thing like we used to. Remember, honey?
I don't know that we've ever had to do a thing for a long time. We just intend, and it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been such a beautiful thing. But the one thing that I want people to think about is we all do this, not just Ralph and I, not just Ralph and Bridget and I, but we all do it. We manifest stuff, that some things all the time. And if you can see that oh yes, I did want that. I did put that in motion. I did focus on that. I did put that in my intention. And once you do that and you start being so appreciative, it just keeps happening. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, intentions are energy in motion. Emotion, that's energy in motion. So when you're intending, you're putting energy in motion. And don't try to define it. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to plan it. Just let it be, and it will come. I promise you that, because our whole life has lived like that, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful, simple thing, and we want to share it with everybody, because there's no more worrying about nothing. If we get a big bill, somebody sends us a check. Well, you forgot this check or something from the fire. Somebody sent us a check from the fire and said, here, you forgot this. And that was enough to pay we put in a fresh water system in our home, $7,000. Mm-hmm. And in came the check from the fire.
It covered.
And exactly. It covered it all instantly. So we didn't have to put anything on time or anything. I mean, overnight we had a watering system. It just keeps going.
So how do you, before we end it, we let you go. I mean, what do you think, how is it that you listen to your feelings? How do you feel your feelings? Do you get a thought? Do you get a feeling? Do you hear a voice? And then that's how you know how to step forward or what to do? I mean, when you were talking about the pool, did you like get a message like in your mind, like a ticker tape that said pool open?
Well,
or did you hear a voice?
It's even better than that. It's even better than that, because we're attuned on other levels of consciousness. We're attuned. Our minds are open on different frequencies. They're not open just in getting out of bed and getting dressed and eating and going for a drive. They are open to the universe, like what's next, because we don't think. We don't try to think. We wake up in the morning, we never try to think of what we're going to do. We just get up and find ourselves doing something, and we find, oh gosh, this is great. This is wonderful. I needed to get this done, but I was putting it off. So things come to you, and you can feel. You can just feel if you see somebody or someplace or something, you can, before you even get to it, before you get within talking distance, you love it. Oh, I love it. I love this person, or I love this place, or I love this thing. That's your feelings. And never doubt them. They're always truthful. If you're honest with yourself and feel your feelings, they'll tell you, they'll lead you. You don't have to do a thing. Your feelings will guide you. And you don't have to think, well, what do I feel next? No, it'll come to you. Once you start feeling, and just like when I woke up, as soon as my eyes opened, the pool's open. That's all I felt was, I didn't even hear it. I just knew. I just felt it. Like, oh, the pool's open.
And
there was no reason for knowing that, because there was no message that we thought would be down for another couple of weeks.
I feel like I want to say all of the things that you said, Bridget, all of the ways, those all come to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear a voice, sometimes you hear something in the radio or the TV, or pick something up in our cell phone. There's ways that
it's totally unlimited.
Yeah,
it's unlimited.
just be open.
Yeah,
to
just keep
your
yourself.
guidance and keep. I always ask for that Spirit guide us in what we can be helpful to do in this universe. I always ask for that, and I think you do too.
Yeah, and for people that have trouble with accepting God as anything, use your subconscious. We have a subconscious that's quite a bit smarter and wiser than we are. Like driving a car, once we learn it on the outside, it goes to the subconscious. You never have to think about it again, because you already know. You know that you know. So you have trust.
There's two really good things that I was thinking about. One is in the Bible, it talks about, in the God section, when God's talking to people, it says something like, before you even ask for it, I've already given it to you.
Yes.
That's exact.
Yeah, and then in the Conversation with God books by Neale Donald Walsch, I was like really hooked on him during the period my family was dying. I used to listen to him when I'd have to go back and forth to deal with, their health and problems and them dying. And there was this one part of, I don't know, I think it's like the third Conversations with God book. And Neale Donald Walsch, he talks to the female aspect of God. He writes about that, and also the male aspect. And so at one point, Neale Donald Walsch asks the male aspect of God, why would you, put us here in this world? It seems really, really unsafe. And when God speaks to him, God says, I don't really consider you being where you're at as unsafe. You determine that in your own mind. And he said, and then God says in the Conversation with God book, he says, I constantly am talking to you. I'm constantly sending you messages. I will send you messages in your life over and over and over again. And they will come through other people. They will come as graffiti on a wall. They will come through books. They will come through all different places, but I will continue to talk to you. I will continue to send you messages, and I'll never stop doing that. And I always thought that's like my favorite part of the Conversation with God's books, is that this aspect of God telling him that I will never give up. I will always work on trying to get through to you.
And I really believe that, Bridget, that God is that the I am, the source, is the breath that we're breathing is always here, and as we focus on that, and we say, okay, what's next? Maybe you're asking your higher self. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, call it your higher self. You can call it whatever you want, because that's our freedom. That's our freedom of choice. You can call it God. You can call it a Buddha. You can call it infinity or source or creator. Or it doesn't matter what you call it. It's just life itself. is probably the simplest explanation. And people say, well, I can't believe life can do that. Well, then try and grow a tree yourself. It happens. Life just happens.
And it's so beautiful. What we have, what we have been given is magnificent. It's everything. It's like I've spoke many times of watching the birds. We watch Val feeds the birds here in our yard every day, and we watch them, and they come and go, and they sometimes are bickering a little bit, but what the beauty about them is, you tell it. The little birds are actually picking up birdseed and feeding it to each other. It's just been amazing. We've seen this.
I've never seen that before.
It's just
ever. I mean, not just one or like, well, that must be a chick or something. No, these are growing birds, and they're feeding each other. I mean, because one will say, well, I'm tired, and sit over on the sideline, and the other one goes, picks up a seed and brings it over and feeds them. And we watch this, I mean, for days. It's still going on right now. I saw one this morning doing it. I don't understand it, but I don't need to. It's so beautiful.
And to think that we can be that loving to each other, because there is only one of us. There is only one of us. And when we really, really know that, and we really, there's many separates. What am I trying to say?
Segments.
There's segments of the oneness. Yes, many. There's many specks of sand in the.
Well, the Beatles. Remember the walrus? I am one, and you are. I am you, and you are my. I mean, the Beatles and Strawberry Fields. The Beatles had all this philosophies in their music and telling people, just wake up and enjoy life. Don't fight it. Don't get mad. Be glad. And we said, oh, well, that was the Beatles. And, oh, God.
I think that's like, I think now, like what we're going through, like people are coming out of lockdown. And I think a lot about, what our, I mean, my life didn't change a ton, with lockdown or no lockdown. I continue to do the same things that I'm doing, regardless, right? Because I'm trying to live by, the inner self, right? And
sure.
But I think a lot about, what will people do once they've had this pause? Will you go back to living the crazy life that you've been living, that's exhausting you, and you don't feel like you're getting anywhere? Or are you going to slow down, relax, start thinking, start getting into the groove, start aligning yourself with yourself, and then, start listening to your inner self to guide you? And so we have a lot of choices right now that people need to make for themselves. Do you continue the rat race, or do you get off that wheel?
Yeah, and to go back to a hierarchy that's telling you what you will do and what you won't do, and if you don't do it, you're going to get fired, with that threat over you all the time. If you stop and go into your feelings and say, wait a minute, I can make a better this than that. Is this the best they have to hear? I'm going to make one of these and see if it sells. And so you get into your creative thing in your spare time in your garage, and you make something, and you put it on the market, and you call it Photo Strip. And now the guy's made $1 million off a photo strip, and he just had an idea, because and he doesn't have to go back to being told what to do and how to do it. You create your own way that feels good, not what you have to do, but what feels good, and you'll never go wrong with it.
That inspiration, that moment of inspiration, and carrying it through in whatever way that you have to carry it through. Like you were saying, you might think the voice is telling you something that's cockamamie, but you do it, right, and you go, oh, wow, that wasn't cockamamie at all. I mean, I guess I couldn't
Right.
get through this roadblock, so they had to give me a left and a right and a left and a right, and then I come back around, and then there it is, no wall.
Yeah, and someday you begin to start laughing at it. You start laughing at yourself, like, "Oh God, how could I have been that dumb, or how could I have been that stupid?" I mean, it becomes comical because you see yourself doing things by thought, not by feelings, but by thought, and you always get into trouble, like shooting yourself in the foot every time because you think this is going to work. Oh, it didn't work this time. Well, maybe next time. Well, no. When you feel your way, always it'll work. Always. It may be what you consider a positive or a negative, but don't go there because it just is what it is. And then you can put your own definition on it. Well, the guy punched me, but I needed it. I needed a punch right then. So I'm really grateful for that punch. Thanks. I know I don't know any other way to say it right now, honey.
I don't want to need a punch right now, but anyway.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is true. If we just flow with our inner guidance, what our feelings are, even when we get emotionally distraught, like something seems like, oh, it's really bad, it's really
Impossible.
happening.
Yeah, and you want to panic. Oh, don't ever panic.
But if you just quiet yourself and be still, and that's in the Bible so many times.
Meditation.
Be still and know that I am with you, that I'm here. The I am of you is right here with you, and it will see you through it will manifest a better situation for you.
And your moments of meditation will increase and give you more and more value. And I've gone from sitting in the lotus position for an hour to stopping at a stoplight. And between the time it takes to turn green again, I've been in a meditative state, and it just feels so good because you just go to your feelings. You don't think about anything. You just, how do I feel? And the feelings guide you. So there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I love that last thing. I'll throw this in. Two things that your choices are, right? So fear, F-E-A-R. You can, F everything and run.
Yes.
Or F-E-A-R, false evidence appears real.
Oh, I like those. I've never heard those before.
Oh, I have, yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, that's so perfect.
Yeah,
false
it is.
evidence. Yeah.
Because that's what it is, but we get caught up in the, F everything and run.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, this is what, yeah.
There was a movie with Albert Finney, I think his name was, and Shirley MacLaine, and oh God, what's her name? I can't think of them. It was called Face Your Fears, and that was one of the greatest movies to explain. If you run, you're running away. You're running towards your fear.
Yeah.
But if you turn around and face it and say, "All right, what is this all about?" then it has to dissolve because you're coming on with a stronger power of honesty than this crazy fear that's trying to tempt you, But it's a good movie called Face Your Fears.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that, but I went through a process of where I, started listening to my own inner records more, probably like, in my late 20s, like 52 this year. And I remember there was a period where, voices would show up that were not mine, that probably were from my parents or, whoever else, other places in the world. And I remember, when they'd start talking to me or, they would try to take over the situation, I would say things to them like, who are you and what do you want? And it's like the more that I asked them those questions, the more that they would like back off and go away. If I wasn't paying attention. They have to. Yeah, if I wasn't paying attention, they were running amok.
Yeah, when you face your fears, they dissolve. They really, it's hard because boy, I was on the, just quickly, I was on the side of an avalanche one time, about to fall about 1,000 feet down. I mean, I was on a cliff. This was up in the mountains, in Monte Cristo Mountains in Washington State. And I slid all the way down to where I was just grabbing the edge of the cliff to fall off. And my feet were already over the edge. And I felt panic starting to come up from my feet, up through my legs and hit my solar plexus. And I decided if I let it go here, I'm gone, because I'm going to panic and let go. But I didn't. As soon as it hit my solar plexus, I said, use your mind, use your heart, whatever, use it. And all of a sudden, the inspiration came to reach for that branch. Well, I said, if I reach for the branch, I'm going to let go of my hold here, and that branch is going to break, and I'm going to fall. Stop arguing with me. Reach for the branch. I reached for the branch. It wasn't a branch. It was the root of a tree, and I pulled myself to safety. And I got out of it by listening to that small voice or feeling or whatever, and not arguing with it. And it saved my life. Many times it saved my life.
Yeah, there's a really kind of cool story I'll tell really quick. But a friend of mine, he works with a lot of, native medicine, type people, holy men in Canada. And he was telling me a story about one of his teachers who's a holy man from this tribe in Canada. And this holy man, when he had been young, like in his 20s, he was told, in his inner hearing, inner self, that he needed to go up into these mountains and do some things up there. Well, he went up into the mountains to do some things, and like some spiritual things. And what happened is that he ended up falling off a cliff, a sheer cliff, and he fractured his leg super bad in several places, including a fracture to the femur. And so he was, bleeding to death, basically. And he was stuck on this rock off this cliff. And
Wow.
yeah, so the next thing that happened was he said like about a 10-foot extraterrestrial woman. He said he didn't know if she was like Nordic or Palladian or who she was, but he could tell. But she picked him up and took him to this cave where she had been hiding, and kind of been. And she did all this. She touched his leg with her finger and instantly healed his whole leg. And then he remembered that he woke up at home and he didn't know how he got home. And he had been totally fixed and totally repaired. But he said, he went up there to do his inner work, with the work that, the creator wanted him to do. So he went up there and did it. And during the process, he got severely injured, but he was found by this being and healed and corrected 100%, and then somehow put in his bed at home.
Always, it always works that way. I mean, different strokes for different folks, but it always works that way.
Yeah, and that's why you don't need to be that's why you can't be afraid, because if you're afraid,
hang on for a second.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, anyway, it looks like he rolled off. So that's the end. So we're just going to go ahead and end it, and because we're going on too long anyway. So carrying stones and digging holes, and we just had a conversation with Ralph Ring and Marsha Brown on manifesting, and they are like the most powerful manifestors that I know. Whoops, hold on one second. All right. So that's it. So thanks for listening and have a great day.